All right, in this video, I'm going to break down why you need to go Thanos and snap half your plugins in your home studio to make your recordings better, to make your mixes better, and overall have a more time efficient experience in your home studio. Hey, I'm Make the Music. Welcome back to my channel. You should like and subscribe to the video down below. Check out some of the free guides I have. If you'd like to work with me on a project, I have links down there. Anyways, why do I say you need to snap and get rid of half your plugins immediately in your DAW? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, yes, there are so many great plugins out there. There's so many that can do amazing things in the mix stage, compression, EQ. There's a ton of excellent virtual instruments. And there's so many good companies putting out high quality products that we couldn't even imagine 10 to 15 years ago. It's completely awesome. But that's also the issue. There's too many good plugins out there that there's too many options for you. You don't know what to pick. You don't know what to buy. You don't know what to do. You're in the state of what should I use instead of I'm going to use this and now I'm going to make something creative with it, right? The plugin is just a tool, right? The instrument is just a tool to get you that final creative outlet, that final product, whatever you're trying to do, create a song, create a track, create a beat, whatever you're trying to do, it's a tool to get there. And if you're spending too much time trying to select the tool, as opposed to get the job done and create some music, to me, that's detrimental to your process. And you're spending a lot of brain power and a lot of energy on something that is not actually going to affect your final result in the long run that much. I've talked about before, there's a baseline of high quality products in the home studio, but basically anything you get from these modern companies is going to sound good. You just need to learn the tool properly. They've found in studies that when people are presented with two options, right? Two flavors of ice cream, you know, chocolate and vanilla, and you go to select one, right? Maybe you're a big chocolate fan, maybe you're a big vanilla fan, but whenever you select that flavor, you're going to be much more satisfied because you knew, hey, there was only one option. Or let's say you're presented with one option, right? There's only vanilla ice cream. Well, you only knew you're going to get vanilla ice cream. You're going to be happy. You're going to be satisfied with that. But the more options we add, the more people go, maybe I should have selected that. Maybe I should have picked this. And the more they become unsatisfied with their selection. That's what's happening with you in your home studio when you go to mix or when you go to create tracks. Let's say you're mixing a vocal. You're like, okay, it's time to throw on an EQ. Let's get rid of some of that low end. Let's boost the top end. You open up the menu, you go, which EQ? I have my stock EQ. I've got my virtual mix rack EQ. I've got my, SSL channel EQ. I've got my Infinite EQ from Slate. I've got my Fab Filter EQ. Which one do I pick? And you've just spent 20 seconds trying to decide which EQ to use, instead of using that mental effort to actually mix the track, right? This is going to be detrimental to your process. Not only is it going to take you longer to mix the track now, but you're spending more of your brain power and fatiguing yourself on these little decisions. So here's the process for paring down your plugins in your DAW and going full Thanos and improving your productions. Number one, I would recommend getting rid of half of the plugins in your DAW. And you're like, how am I even going to do that? I think it's a very easy process. You're just going to go through, find the EQs, find the plugins, find the compressors that you go, hey, have I used this in the past month? Let's say you're consistently in the home studio. If you haven't used a plugin in the past month of your projects, then you probably don't use it often enough, and it's probably just taking up a lot of space on your computer in your DAW. Now, if you have past projects that use some of these plugins, then okay, that's fine, leave them, but maybe make a separate folder for the plugins that you actually use and the ones that you just need for backup of previous projects. And number two is stop paying for subscriptions to plugin services that you don't need anymore. Look, I love plugin companies as much as the next guy. They're bringing out great stuff. I'm totally pro business and letting people build amazing tools for people to consume. But if you're subscribed to 3 or 4 or 5 different plugin manufacturers per month, and you're getting their plugins, to me, that's just a little too much. You don't need that many tools. You don't need to be spending that much money, okay? This whole point of this home studio thing is it's a cost-effective way for you to create your own music, and not like in the old days where you had to go to a studio and pay thousands of dollars, and there's a cool part of that process. But the whole reason is this home studio thing is supposed to be cost-effective for you, but now you're spending $100, $200 a month, upwards of $2,500, $3,000 a year on plugin subscriptions. To me, it doesn't add up. And whenever I start paying more and more for monthly things, maybe it's like, hey, for this project, I needed this plugin for a month. I'm going to buy a month of this. That's totally fine. But if you're starting to stack up all these plugin subscriptions, I guarantee you're not using them nearly enough to justify paying for them. So reevaluate all the plugin subscriptions you have, all the software subscriptions you have, and go through and maybe pare it down to 1 or 2 that you really need. And the third way to help you snap half your plugins is use mix templates. Spend some time building some mix templates out that use the plugins that you actually want to use in your DAW and get rid of some of that option fatigue. For example, if you have a template built out for whenever you do a rock mix, or maybe you have production templates that have your favorite drum machines loaded in, that have your favorite amp sims loaded in, that have your favorite EQs and compressors, you're going to use those tools automatically because they're already loaded into the DAW. You're not going to have have that option analysis paralysis of hitting that insert button and going, okay, I've got thousands of plugins. Which one do I pick? There's already an EQ on that track. You just select it, you make the changes, and away you go. And you leave all that creative energy to the creative process of mixing or producing your track. And then next is spend some separate time in your studio shooting out plugins. If you're really concerned about finding the best plugin, then spend some separate time in your studio, set aside an hour, maybe a week, or maybe an hour a month, whichever you decide, and shoot out some plugins. Which compressor do you like better? Why do you like it? And maybe use that in your track templates instead. Maybe you got a new reverb plugin, you want to see if it's better than the other reverb plugins, right? I have no problem with people testing, shooting out plugins. I do this on the channel all the time, right? Sometimes a tool is much more fitted to your style of producing or mixing than someone else's, and that's great. Shoot them out, maybe go, hey, this compressor is better because I like how the mix knob works better, or I like how the parallel compression sounds on this one. I'm going to start using this one. I think that's a great idea, but I think a lot of us spend a ton of time going, I'm just going to use this compressor, then use this different one. You spend all your time trying to learn these plugins instead of finding one or two really solid tools that you can use. This happens with virtual instruments all the time, and I have a lot more wiggle room when it comes to virtual instruments because those are much more creative tools. A drum machine or a drum software like Easy Drummer or Hertz Drums or any of these, right? They're much more about having different colors and flavors to play with. So I have a little more leeway for people with lots of different instruments on there. It's like having a bunch more colors to use in your palette. But when it comes to these tools like EQ, compression, saturation, dynamics, yes, there's differences in each one, absolutely. But for the most part, they're all kind of doing the same thing, just in a little different way. And it's more about using a slightly different color and a slightly different way to modify the track than it is having vastly different purposes or vastly different uses. So go ahead, go through your DAW, do this for me. Let me know in a comment down below. Are you going to get rid of some of your plugins? Is it slowing down your workflow? If your workflow is already perfect, great. Then I don't know why you're watching this video because you know more than me. But if your workflow is not perfect and you find yourself in the mixing stage in analysis paralysis of what plugin to use, or production, you spend too much time trying to figure out which plugin to use, then maybe go through some of these processes and get rid of some of your plugins and improve your workflow. Especially with Black Friday coming up, you're probably going to end up buying a few more plugins, so you don't need to overload your DAW. I would get on that and I would work on that. Thank you so much for watching this channel. I have a guide called the Home Studio Toolbox. It's a bunch of free plugins that can help you get started in your home studio journey. So instead of having to go buy out a bunch of stuff, you want to test out this home recording thing, or you're just looking for some great free resources, that's a great guide down below. You can also support me via Patreon or the channel membership. Thank you so much for watching. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.